When a loom was installed at St. Francis House, and with it, a new program for Sayori weaving, no one anticipated how it would unleash an astonishing flow of creativity from so many of our guests. In Sayori weaving, loose threads, accidental skips, and other imperfections simply reflect the inherent beauty of life. Here at St. Francis House, we see the threads of unraveled lives rewoven every day. People of all ages and walks of life are creating new patterns of positive behavior, learning to forgive their own imperfections and reweave the fabric of their lives. Stephen Gilboard seemed to have it all: a fine upbringing, graduation with honors from Massachusetts College of Pharmacy, and the opportunity to take over his family's thriving business.
I always wanted to be a pharmacist. My uncle, who lived with us too, he owned the drugstore. I mean, it was busy from 7 o'clock in the morning to 11, 7 days a week. But I mean, it was just a fun place. So I always wanted to be a pharmacist. And, unfortunately, at age 17, I took my first controlled substance. I remember what it was to this day. It was called Librium. And it just made me feel good and relax me. And then for approximately 40 straight years, I don't think I can ever remember not taking a controlled substance in some fashion every day.
Now married, with a family, respected in his community, Steve's pharmacy business continued to prosper despite his growing addiction to narcotics.
I remember the business was really very, very profitable, and I always had addictive behavior. At one time in my life, I had 5 classic antique cars on the road at the same time, because that was my philosophy in drugs. If 1 was good, 4 is better, and if 4 was good, 5 is better. And I did that all my life, whether it be clothing or Mont Blanc pens or Brooks Brothers suits.
Soon his client list grew to include the wealthy, powerful, and famous. Steve enjoyed the rush of the dangerous game he was playing.
It was a power trip. Henry Kissinger said it, power is the ultimate aphrodisiac. You know, and I had this distorted, stinking thinking all my life, you know, that I was above the law.
Steve's house of cards, built on using and selling drugs, came crashing down when an informant contacted authorities at the DEA, the Federal Drug Enforcement Agency.
5 vehicles with 8 DEA agents told me to hit the ground, at which point they arrested me, handcuffed me, read me my rights, and brought me to my home in Dracut, where in front of my neighbors, who just happened to be sitting out on a nice October beautiful day, took me to the Dracut police station, and then from what I understand, for 7.5 hours, went through that house from top to bottom.
Steve was sentenced to 37 months at FMC Devens, a federal prison. While there, he enrolled in a program for narcotic offenders, finally ready to seek help.
The lowest day of my life was April 15th, 2004, when I was at FMC Devens in my drug group. And as part of the drug program, in order to graduate, is I had to send out letters to my son and daughter and my sister on how my criminal behavior and drug addiction affected their lives.
Steve's daughter wrote a letter in response. Sight unseen, Steve was asked to read the letter to the members of his group.
To whom it may concern, you've asked me to write a letter describing how my father's drug use has affected my life. This has been an extremely difficult task, both emotionally and literally. Emotionally, because I've had to remember embarrassing and painful experiences. My childhood was turbulent and disjointed. Therefore, it is to this day, I still live with the effects of my father's drug use every day. I find life a little easier to live now, too, because I took my husband's last name. I do not feel like every time I meet someone for the first time that his name may be recognizable from the headlines and think, oh, you're Steve Gilboard's kid. What a shame.
I have that letter. I carry it with me at all times in my briefcase. I don't read it. But that's when I knew that the Stephen Gilboard that existed most of his adult life was dead. And I had to change everything in my life.
Because of the drug program, Steve was able to get an early release. He then heard about a place in Boston that could really change his life.
The true semblance of where I am today started here at St. Francis House. I mean, this place gives people hope, love, encouragement, support.
It was wonderful to work with Steve. Steve came into the program. Steve was already at where we want people to be at. His motivation level was high, his commitment, his enthusiasm. So with Steven, it was just kind of watching him grow from day 1 to day 14. I mean, this is truly a unique and special place here at St. Francis House. I've never worked in an organization where everybody is working for the same goal, and that's to help the guests that walk through this door. It's an amazing organization, and that's why I love it here.
People often say to me, it must be so depressing to work at a homeless shelter. And I think to myself, nothing could be further from the truth. To work at St. Francis House is to see people every day transforming their lives into things of beauty. It's truly the most joyful place that I know of in the world to be. Every year, we see more and more people coming to St. Francis House for services. We're seeing 100 people a day more now than we were this time last year. That is an incredible increase in demand. People are seeking us out for treatment, for employment, and for housing. And these are the areas that we need to be responsive to. And this, as we look towards the future, these are our growth areas. We need people to invest their resources in St. Francis House. I say resources because that could be their time to volunteer. That could be their corporate philanthropy. That could be their personal philanthropy. When we can start to come together as a community, we can start to change this experience of homelessness. And what could be better at the end of the day than to think that you've made the world a better place to live? Right now, the future looks very bright for Steve Gilboard. He loves his job at Jewish Vocational Services and hopes to transition out of the Next Step housing program into a home of his own. But his biggest hope has to do with his children.
My dream is to be a wonderful grandfather and for doing the things for my grandchildren in an honest and wonderful way. That's what I want to do with the rest of my life.
At St. Francis House, everyone has a right to dream, a right to hope for a better life, and the opportunity to weave a new and better tapestry of their lives.